Okay, so we're on to the second horoscope. The second horoscope, which is with Stephen Earle. Stephen Earle raised his hand and said he wanted to get his horoscope read. And I've done Stephen before, so it's always a pleasure to do Stephen's horoscope. And I am back here to do it today. And you know what got me about Stephen's horoscope is because when I look at it, I always think about how his horoscope interacts with my own horoscope. So that's one of the things I was looking at, and it was interesting because I had thought he had a Leo moon. He has Leo rising, and he's got his progress moon in Leo, but he has a Pisces moon, which it explains so much. It explains why he's so emotional. He's a very sensitive man. And I realize now why that is. It's because he was born with his moon in Pisces. And the reason why I brought this up and why it's so important is because he's my friend. And I've got my Jupiter in Pisces, and my Jupiter is at 10 degrees. So it's amazing to know that we're friends because, well, my Jupiter sits on his moon in the 7th house. That's hilarious. I love it. So this is what's going on here for Stephen. He was born with his natal sun in the 6th house of work. And basically, this is someone who's worked his whole life. Either he's worked or he's had issues with work, but work would have been a very important part of his life, because not only is his sun there, but so is Pallas Athena, Chiron, that means it's a pain for him, and also his Mercury, so he's thinking about it, and Ceres. So they're all there, okay, in this 6th house of work. Now, this could be health issues as well, but I sense that he might be able to regenerate his health. I mean, if he's lucky, he's able to really kind of bounce back because he's got Pluto in the 6th house, in the sign of Capricorn, where his sun is. In fact, Pluto is really close to being right on his sun at this time. So he may feel like he's been regenerated. And I have talked with him, and he always talks about how he feels like we're in the midst of a big change or a big shift. And I feel that for Stephen, he is definitively in the midst of a big change or a big shift, with Pluto so close to his sun, and exactly on his phallus, I think, at this point. So he's in an amazing time of life. Also, his progressed sun is in the 8th house, and that's the house of sex and money and death. And so there is this sense of regeneration and restoration, and maybe rebuilding his health or his self. Now, I'm not sure if he's able to do that, but Jupiter is transiting the 8th house along with that progressed sun right here. Don't know if you can see that. Oh, I just realized as I'm recording. Okay, you can see this. Okay, I just realized I'm not on Zoom. Thank goodness. So I'm pointing to it, and I don't think you guys can see me pointing, and that's why I'm like, oh, I'm not on Zoom. But if you look up here to the 8th house here, you'll see he's got his sun there. Jupiter's there. Neptune is there. His Mercury is there. Progressed Mercury is progressed. That Ceres is there as well. So he's got a lot going on in the 8th house. And it's a really interesting time. It's a very deep time, very psychological time for him, because he probably has been and wants to delve deeply into everything that has meaning in life for him. And this is good for one, because the 8th house is deep, okay? The 8th house is the thing that digs down and finds all the meanings of everything, right? But with your sun there, your progressed sun, and your Mercury there, the desire to go digging deeper and go darker and go beyond is probably very high. Chiron has moved, it looks like, into his ninth house. And so there might be some type of spiritual pain that he experiences with Chiron up in the ninth house. It could be that he's working on whatever that pain is through his ninth house. So it could be through religion or something of that nature. I noticed that his ascendant, though, is actually opposite the ninth house, down in the third house of communication. So he wants to communicate, that's for sure. And his progressed moon is right on his, almost exactly, if not exactly. His progressed moon is on his natal Pluto exactly. And also Regulus is there. Now, I would say with that, this is not necessarily a good thing. That means you got to watch your emotions and not let your emotions get the best of you, because it would be very, 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 very easy to do so with Jupiter on Pluto in the first house. I think sometimes it might be hard for you to regulate your emotions in general with Jupiter on Pluto in the first house. And so how you manage to do it, I don't know, because your Pluto is exactly opposed to your Venus. So sometimes this might cause a problem. Like there's a lot of personal power versus, say, your partner. And so it's about finding some way to meet in the middle, because it's like a seesaw. It feels like a seesaw here. Like it's love or power. And I guess you got to figure out what you want, if it's going to be love or power. It's going to be hard to get both. And you might have already discovered this in life. Like that is very difficult to get both. You're going to have to figure out if you want love or power. And here's the thing. You were born with the North Node in the 5th house, as well as some like Lilith. Oh my goodness. So again, there is the tendency, I think, to go for power when it comes to love and romance. And look, Mars is coming out of that 5th house. Thank goodness, because it's been progressed there in the 5th house. So you've been pursuing love and romance, maybe being a little aggressive about it, but you're staking your claim and going for what you want. And like I said, it's about finding the balance between love and power. Okay. Now, and also this is true when it comes to sex and money and death and all of those things. It's all about this. It's all about figuring out how you're going to regulate this whole power and love and death and emotions and all of that, because your natal Pluto is in your 1st house and your transiting Pluto is now in your 6th house. So I do sense that I would say either your health is extremely well, or you should do something to make sure that you improve your health, okay, and strengthen it, because I think it could be very a strong point for you to have Pluto, which is very powerful in the 1st house and the 6th house. So just wanted to share that. Also, I can't help but notice that you've got the North Node and Uranus transiting the 10th house. This is a lot, okay? This is a lot. Because Taurus is usually very solid and stable, and not much out of the way happens. But I sense for you, maybe over the last couple of years even, especially since Uranus has been in Taurus, you might have felt like your career has not been stable. It's not been as stable as you would want it or think it should be. And so you might want to watch out also for unusual, sudden, unexpected things occurring in your career because Uranus is there. Just know, though, if something does happen in your career sector, and it's Uranus or it's something, first of all, it would be public because it's really right out there, isn't it? Like the most elevated planet right now is Venus, actually, but Uranus by transit. So it makes me feel like it's something that would be sudden and explosive and out of the blue and It might take you by surprise. And so you want to watch out for that, and you want to be careful about that. I think especially around late January, early February, maybe even into March. I would say from January to March. Just be careful of any kind of sudden things. I don't know why, I just got that vibe. With your ascendant down in the third house, I see lots of communication. And I think it's communicating about relationships and love. So you might be communicating with several individuals about love, about partnerships or something like that, because you've got Mars going through the fifth house, and it looks like Mars is about to go into, or your progressed Mars, by the way, going into your sixth house soon. So that's going to put the emphasis back on work and health, more so than on romance. But I do sense that you've been really thinking about romance. You might have actually been thinking about getting serious about a relationship or a commitment or a marriage, because Saturn on the seventh house tends to make people think about commitment and marriage. So that could be something that has been at the top of your mind, and so you might be working that out. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out, because that could definitely be, and Saturn's at 18 degrees, which means it's exactly opposed your ascendant right now. So it is kind of like that relation. You might seriously be looking for a partner. So you could be in that mode, especially with Pallas Athena sitting on Saturn on the descendant. Like, I'm strategizing this partnership. Like, I see the strategy of it all right here. That's hilarious. Anyway, there's so much more I would want to tell you, because when I look at your chart, there's so much I would love to delve into, but this is a free reading. And so I'm only going to tell you, the basics. Just know you got your progressed moon in the first house and your progressed ascendant in the third house, and your progressed sun in the eighth house. And what I would say is, be careful about your emotions. Like, don't go off willy-nilly yelling at people and creating any havoc or emotional outbursts. If you use these emotions in a positive way, in positive communication, I have a feeling you'll be able to do a lot. Because, having your progressed ascendant in Libra makes you pleasant. It makes you want things to be pleasant, and I think you want to communicate in a pleasant way. And I think the moon in the first house, it might make you a little power trippy, with it being on your natal Pluto like that. But I think overall it helps you to remain compassionate and understanding. And if you continue to do that, to look for ways to be compassionate and understanding, it's going to help you a great deal. That's really going to help a great deal. I can't help but notice you got Saturn and Mars conjoined in the fourth house. Oh my goodness. We have got to talk about that. I don't know what happened in your childhood, but I bet you something did. That is very, very interesting with the father. Something to do with the father or the mother. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of go over this real quickly. Let me see, what did I put here? Progressed sun in the 8th house of money, sex, and death, right? Natal moon in the 7th house of partnership. Yeah, that natal moon in the 7th house of partnership, it makes you other-oriented. So you probably do reach out a lot to other people looking for a relationship. Now, you might be more internal because, like I said, this moon is on your Pluto in the 1st house. So that's all power inside of you. So you might be withholding that power and not sharing it with others. Let's see, progressed moon in Leo in the 1st house, conjunct natal Pluto. We discussed that. Transiting Saturn on descendant, opposing ascendant. We discussed that. That's amazing that it's me and thee. Like, it is definitely you and a partner, you and an enemy, you and a partnership, you and something like that. And the progressed ascendant in Libra in the 3rd house That is just communicating about partnerships, if not to your partner, because that is vital. And I sense this is all part of what it is. With your progressed ascendant in Libra, your progressed midheaven in Cancer, I just sense this urge to partner up and settle down and build a solid, comfortable lifestyle. See if the Koch chart is any different. Anything I'm seeing different here? Well, no, really, it's very much the same, isn't it? Yeah, very much the same. This puts, looks like Mars is deeper in the 5th house, but it's still there. This puts the North Node in the 4th house instead of the 5th house. I just noticed that. You know, that makes a big difference, because the North Node being in the 5th house means the end journey, or the one thing that will create the happiness in your life is going to be love and romance, or children. Either children, love, romance, or gambling of some kind. But with it going into the 4th house, that seems to be more about home and family. So only you know what is more important, whether it's love and romance or whether it's home and family. But search within yourself for that answer, because that will kind of tell me if you're leaning more toward the Koch horoscope chart or the regular horoscope chart. The other thing I can't help but notice is that most of your planets are under the horizon. So you're very subjective. There are things going on that you have not told anybody because you keep them all to yourself, and you like it that way. And I feel like you're constantly someone who is like, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Now, whether or not you get it done, I don't know. Well, I'm going to do it, right? I'm going to do it. I just feel like you start things out maybe emotionally or let's just say suddenly. They end emotionally. I feel like with Uranus in the 12th house too, there could be some really crazy, deep things going on psychologically inside of that deep hidden place up there. There's a lot. My goodness, what are you thinking, my dear man? It's a lot going on in there, and that's at 0 degrees of Leo. So that's a very interesting placement. You know, you've got a lot of 0 degrees. You got it says Neptune at 0 degrees of Scorpio, Uranus at 0 degrees of Leo, Saturn at 0 degrees of Sagittarius, and Jupiter at 0 degrees of Virgo. And is this Venus at 0 degrees of Scorpio? Wait a minute, where's that Venus? I mean, to me, it's crazy to see that, because it's one, yeah, look at this. It's very rare to have that, where they're at 0 degrees. Like, 0 degrees is not a common place to have things. It's very fateful. So it's weird that you would have like 29 and 0 degree planets in your chart. Anyway, with Venus as your most progressed planet up in the 10th house, I think that you do best by pursuing love and all things that have to do with love and beauty. Stay positive and stay hopeful and pursue love, because love is the answer to everything. All right. Much love to you, Stephen. This has been Adrienne, Capricorntigress of astrologyaLookInside.com.